Good morning. Thank you for being a part of today's service. Immediately after the service today, we will have the Waffle and Tots food truck available for lunch in the parking lot by Nifong. So bring your appetites and join us. Mark your calendar for this Tuesday, June 8th. We'll have our church-wide meeting beginning at 6:30. Our leadership is excited to share the church vision, mission, and next steps. We want you to be a part of it, so please plan to come. Childcare is available, but be sure to register. Matt Gordon is back and will be joining us with today's message. But first, let's stand and sing together with the band. Woodcrest, Real People, Real Journey starts now.
Lost on a lonely road, I was chasing the highlight, trying to satisfy my soul. All the lies I believed in left me crying in the rain. And I saw lightning from heaven, and I've never been the same. I'm gonna climb a mountain, I'm gonna shout about it. I am a child of love. I found the word freedom, I found a friend in Jesus. I am a child of love. It's a great way to start your day. Welcome to Woodcrest. We are so glad that you're here. We're going to sing a couple of more songs. We would love it if you would sing along with us. Here we go. Well, I've searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade were never enough. And you came along and put me back together. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never fail me yet. Will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise. Still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never fail. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. Still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never fail me yet. Never failed me yet. Thank you so much for singing with us. You can have a seat.
I love starting the morning in a posture of gratitude and worship. We can continue in that posture as we take some of what God has entrusted us to manage and give it back for the purposes in our church and community. Will you join me in preparing your offerings? You can place them in the boxes as you exit or send a text with the amount of your offering to 77977. If you've not downloaded the Woodcrest app, that's another way to stay connected, as well as to make your offerings by using the Give button. Your faithful giving allows the church to continue to be a safe place for us to enjoy community and explore and share our faith together. What a wonderful gift.
Morning. All right, Pete. The lyric from that last song says, "I'll see you do it again." It takes me back to, 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago. I don't even remember where it was or who it was that I was reading, so that's good sourcing for you. But it was about how church attendance in the United States is at kind of an all-time low, or feels like it's at an all-time low. And then there was a lot of opinions on, will it come back? And the consensus of that secular article was no. That the church is kind of dying out, faith is sort of dying out. And first problem with that is we should ask Africa, because they don't concur with that. Or like Mongolia or Brazil. So one problem with the reading is it's so sort of United States centric. But the other problem with the reading this is they're saying it's just a habit, that people come to church because it's a habit. People even log on now because it's a habit. And once you remove that habit, it won't come back. And what they're doing is they're using sort of secular metrics, or I would say natural metrics, to gauge a supernatural thing. I don't know how many times throughout history God has been declared dead, but it hasn't stuck. Which is what I find interesting about today is this morning, before you all got here, you know what happened here? A church service. The second service came back. So it's like the metrics are saying people aren't coming anymore, but yet we're opening the doors for people to come, and you see blue chairs in the space, and it's what's the line? I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. I'll see you fill hearts to the brim, which fills passion to the brim, and it's passion that people follow, and they always will do. It's not about habits. It's about a God that doesn't run out, that fills his people with passion, and that becomes a contagion. I'll see you do it again and again and again. So I hope if we get nothing else out of today that we will believe that. Maybe just a little bit, but it's progressive. Maybe we'll believe a little more next time and next time and next time. That God is capable of doing it again, of building it back. What he will be building here over the next, we'll just call it summer, is a series that's called Nothing But Blue Skies. And self-evident, I will be speaking today. If you haven't realize that yet. You'll get there. It's early. Drink a little more coffee. But I'll be speaking, and then next week, a woman named Kelly Wright will be sharing. Many of you know Kelly. A couple people know her well because they cheered. Kelly will be sharing. If you don't know Kelly, the reason why these people cheered is because she's awesome. She's winsome. She's wise. She's learned. And she's going to speak it. And then I'll be back, and then she'll be back, and we're just going to kind of do this sort of tug-of-war thing together. And I think it'll be really good. Lord willing. So there I just gave you a little advertisement for the summer, and then I ended it with Lord willing, which makes the advertisement terrible. If you're watching TV this weekend and there's an advertisement to come down to the outlet mall where you can save big on name brands, Lord willing, you probably wouldn't go. You'd be like, well, maybe I get there and they'll take the deals away. I don't know if I want to be. Lord willing is a super awkward phrase, and it can get worse if you apply it to different things. You go to a restaurant, Someone comes up and says, can I take your order? Lord willing. Like, Lord willing, you got a pad and pen. Yeah, you can take my order. And don't sit down. I hate when they sit down with you. Like, stand up. Get on your feet, server. Take my order. How about this one? This is your captain speaking. Nothing but blue skies ahead. Beverage service will be around shortly. This will be about 2 hour of flight time. Lord willing. Did he say Lord willing? And how panicked should I be? Because I'll take a little delay to my flight, but you better not delay my beverage service. I'll go viral for the wrong reasons. You give me my little 8 ounces of cola now. Here's one that definitely wouldn't play well. Or maybe it would. I'm not sure. For richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded bride? I do. Lord willing. Like, you sneak that one in, and maybe it's a heady play, because if things don't go well, you're like, well, I guess the Lord didn't will it. No, you can't say that in those circumstances, and you sound really weird, but Lord willing does have a scriptural basis, and it's found in James chapter 4, verses 13 through 15. It says this, now listen, you who say, tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. I love this line. What is your life? Or we could shorten it to what's your life? Because it sounds like one of those acronyms teenagers use when they're angsty. Like, I could see someone saying, WYL, Dad. What's your life? Like, it's the Bible hitting hard. What's your life? And then biblical trash talk is the worst kind of trash talk. Here it goes. You are a mist that appears for a little while and then poof, vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills. If it's the Lord's will, Lord willing, we will do this or that. So it's not just trying to make you sound like a weirdo, but I also think it's not trying to get you to even say that thing, because you will sound like a weirdo. Well, let's go to the food truck after the service, Lord willing. Be like, no, let's just go. Like, what are you doing? What it's trying to do is get you a heart, like much of the Bible's doing. It's trying to get you a heart of humility. Like, there's a verse that follows this. I think it's actually the next verse that says something like, you live out of arrogance. And it's urging these people who are reading this letter to live out of humility. God is in control, so that means God is in control. Don't presume that you are in control. But even more than that, what this Lord willing sort of paragraph embodies is that the Bible gets it. It understands the lives that we actually lead. It knows about the phone call. Now, like, phones are great. You have it in your pocket, you have it in your purse, you have it nearby, you have your hand on it because you can't take your hand off it. You use phones for all kinds of stuff. Playing words with friends, hopefully not right now. Putting a funny filter on a picture, also hopefully not right now. Checking the score of your favorite team. If your favorite team is my favorite team, don't even bother checking right now. Everyone's hurt and they're terrible. We use it for all kinds of things, but the other thing that the phone has become is the beacon for life's distress. When something goes bad around your life, the phone is going to be the thing that tells you so. It's like it rings and you look and it's an area code that you left long ago and you think, oh, why are they calling me? This can't be good. Or maybe it's someone who calls you all the time and you pick up and you say hello and their tone is a little bit off, as if to say, are you sitting down? Or maybe they just jump right in and say, hey, I have some tragic news. It's that phone call, the one that changes everything. And you've gotten that phone call, many of you have, or you will at some point. Like in our life, my father-in-law, he got that phone call about 18 months ago. It was his wife calling of 40 years, and his soulmates, they get along great, they're like a perfect couple. He was actually retiring, and she was on the way to his retirement party, and she calls him, and so he thinks, okay, maybe she's picking something up. So he answers hello, and it wasn't her voice, it was a man's voice, and he was a police officer. And my father-in-law said, oh, this can't be good. And the police officer said, it's not. Sir, your wife collapsed. You need to get to the hospital as soon as possible. I got the ripple effect call from my sobbing wife facing the prospect of losing her best friend, our childcare, her mother. And in coming days, much and more was lost, and phones rang of people who care about this situation with searing news of tragic loss. The clouds unexpectedly had rolled into our lives. A storm shook the house. Blue skies, that's a distant memory or a myth altogether. That's the call I'm talking about. It might look different for you. It might be a doctor that can't wait for the in-person visit, so they call with a dire diagnosis. It could be the plans that got augmented. Like I had a talk with someone, I was going to do their wedding in October. He came by and said, hey, we don't need you to do that anymore. I said, well, what happened? He said, well, we got a call. My fiance's mom called. She only has a month left, so we're going down to their place just to get married really fast so she can be part of it. It could be the empty result of a best shot taken. The phone rings, you answer, hopeful, only to hear you didn't get the job. It could be a relationship that's severed through the phone. And when you get that call, you get that news, it feels like the beginning of the end. Tears stream down your face, and similarly, tears sidle down the windows of your life. One version of dreams and hopes shattered. Lord willing is a euphemism for storm is coming. It's a forecast of unknown clouds. So here we arrive at a series called Nothing But Blue Skies, and what we want to say from the right up front, that is not the prevailing language of the Bible. It's not the predominant stance of the Christian ethic. And some people would try and convince you otherwise. There's a camp of believers or pseudo-believers or Christians or pseudo-Christians who kind of have this idea that holistically faith will make you well, meaning that if you believe, everything will be rosy in your life. That if you just wish clouds away hard enough, that you can transcend trials. Give enough faith, and a lot of times this is measured in dollars, but if you give enough faith, you can produce a pain-free, cloud-free life. And my answer to that is just like to take out the Bible and flop it open pretty much anywhere. Pretty much to any page, because if you do that, what you see in the Bible is bedlam. It's not like a Care Bear story. It's like my kid's got a children's Bible, and it's not as thick as my Bible because they have to take a bunch of stuff out because it's not suitable for all ages. Like, the message is applicable to all ages, but some of the stories, some of the things going on, it's angsty and ugly and dirty. And there's some wrong in there, and there's some tension. There's some redemption too, but it's just this struggle always going on. You read the Old Testament and you come away from almost every chapter saying, ooh, HBO should make a series about this. There's like all this tension. Hebrews 11, I think, does this beautiful job. It's called the Hall of Faith. It's a New Testament chapter, and it's hearkening back to the Old Testament as some of the heroes of faith. So these are people whose faith should have made them well because they lived faith so great. It's a who's who. They should have the blue skies. They have earned it. And so it kicks off with a guy named Abel. I don't know if you all know who Abel was. Here's what happened to Abel. He got murdered. I think what's crazy about this, too, especially for the people who say if you give enough, then everything will go well, he got murdered precisely for what he gave, which was more than enough. He gave abundantly, and that caused him to be murdered. That's not blue sky. That's a dark, dark cloud. And the next one listed in the Hall of Faith is Noah. Noah lost everything he had in a flood. There wasn't a blue sky in sight for Noah. Like, the most boring job in all of existence has been being the meteorologist when Noah was around. He's like, well, today's going to look like rain. We checked tomorrow. It looks like there's going to be some clouds rolling in. Weekend looks, well, rainy. A 10-day forecast, a lot of rain. I mean, that's all the person would do. Seattle has nothing on where Noah grew up. Forget about blue skies. Next is Abraham and Sarah, and we can do a dangerous thing with people like Abraham and Sarah, and dangerous thing with people among us that are like Abraham and Sarah. Abraham and Sarah are rich. They got a bunch of stuff. They have a bunch of resources. And somehow we can get through our mind, but boy, if I had enough resources, then I wouldn't have problems. Or people in my life who do have a bunch of resources don't have problems. Is there any sham greater than that? I made a rich person really mad at me once. just for a moment. He couldn't show his anger because we were live. We were in front of a bunch of people. He's a celebrity. His name is Gary Sinise, and I got to interview him. And if you know Gary, he's Lieutenant Dan. He's been in some other stuff. He's written a book. He's popular. He's well-known, philanthropic, has this good life, has a house in Malibu, has tons of stuff going. And I'd send him prep for the interview, but he didn't read it because he's busy. He has stuff to do. I thought about this interview for a year. He thought about it for 8 seconds. And he's doing great on this interview, but I wanted to ask him this question that would make him relate some with the audience. And so I just looked at him and I said, well, Gary, you got all this stuff going, movies, awards, all these things, money. So your life's probably pretty easy, huh? And the look he gave me instantly, he covered it up and then we went on to the interview, but it was indignant, incredulous. And then he shared what I wanted him to share about his wife who's battling alcoholism and wasn't all the way on the other side yet, if there is another side to that battle. Or his son who is fighting cancer and was in a really bad spot. Or his own health, he shared that stuff. The point is, wealth does not buy blue skies. It doesn't. It can buy blue glasses that tint the sky, but it doesn't buy blue skies. And Abraham and Sarah are a great picture of this because, yes, they had stuff, but you know what else they had? Infertility. At a massive level. And if you want a rainy season in your life, go through some infertility where you hope and you long and you pray and you try with empty results for the voices of children, and the only ones you hear are the neighbors around you, their kids. And if you're in that season right now, take heart, have courage, and if you know someone in that season, pray for them, love them. That is a terrible season. What might be worse is the season that happened next to Abraham and Sarah, that after decades of infertility, they're told they're going to have this son. It's now we're too old. I'm in my 30s and I wake up tired. I can't imagine being a geriatric with an infant. That's a bad proposition. And God actually tells them, no, Sarah, it's not too late. You're still going to have kids. And she starts laughing. And then she's like, well, that's God. I better not laugh. This is in Genesis 18. And God's like, why'd you laugh? And she's like, I didn't laugh. You laughed. I didn't laugh. It's this hilarious scene in the Bible. She's like, I can't believe I just mocked openly God. It's because I'm old and I can't have a kid now. And that's what they did. They were old and had kids. And then Isaac comes along. He's mentioned in the Hall of Faith. He had infertility. He had late life blindness. He had deceit. There's a guy named Jacob who's mentioned who toiled for a wife for 7 years and then maybe did the dumbest thing in the Bible, married the wrong woman. And then had to toil again for 7 years. After that first 7 years, get an ID check, all right? Make sure you're getting it right. And he toils, and then he has familial infighting. And then Joseph's mentioned, who gets wrongfully accused of sexual assault and spends time in prison. And then there's Moses, great faith Moses. But Moses is like the person at Disney World who waits in line 4 hours for the ride, only to finally get called up and get to sit on the ride, and they bring out the measuring stick and say, oh, you're too short to ride. He waited 40 years in the wilderness with stiff-necked people, only to arrive at the promised land and not be able to go in. Yes, his faith was great, but his life was real. Rahab is mentioned. She's called the harlot. Enough said. That's not a blue sky profession. The point is, life is a storm. And people come along and they peddle some magic prayer as a path to perpetual blue skies. And what's super strange about this is that a lot of people disbelieve in Christianity for that very reason. Because they hear about the blue skies and they don't believe it. That feels like a mirage, some kind of fairyland concoction. And so they disbelieve in the thing, not based on what the thing is, but based on what the thing isn't. It's like hating the sun because it's wet. And you're like, where did you hear that? That's not even... And we've kind of done that because we like that thought creeping in that, man, I can just will myself, faith myself, believe myself, and behave myself to where life is easy. And that's kind of a wrong-headed notion. Christianity, the Bible, what it is full of, it's chock full of rugged realism. Here's another passage I would say I like, but it's actually more of a love-hate relationship. It's James 1:2. Many of you know it. It's a great one to memorize, but it says, consider it pure joy. That's the part I love. I'll consider pure joy all the time. It's one of my hobbies. Just sit around and consider pure joy. I'm in. Consider it pure joy, people, brothers and sisters, folks. Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds. First thing I hate about it is trials of many kinds. No, why isn't there just one trial? Because then we could get a manual for it. It was like the other day we did interviews with a guy who had snakes. I hate snakes. He had a bunch of snakes. He's like, oh, this is just one variety. And he started listing all the different types of snakes. I was like, why are there multiple types of snakes? I could deal with one snake. There's all these different snakes, and that's how trials are. There's all these different ones that can get us. Like if we all wrote down on a piece of paper what our trial is right now, and then I read them aloud, we won't do that. That'd be super weird, church. When I read them aloud, we would have like dozens and dozens of options. Many trials, many kinds. The joy part's great, but I don't know about that. But then even worse, it doesn't say if you encounter trials. It doesn't say in case of trials. It doesn't say should you happen upon trials. What does it say? Whenever. It says when you do this. It's predictive. And the prediction is for every single one of you, and you might not believe it, but I mean, come on, look at your life. You should believe it. It's saying for every single person who ever lives, guess what? Part of the story, part of the narrative is trial. The phone will ring. You cannot believe in God all you want. I know I'm probably not supposed to say this from like a church stage, but there's some really good reasons not to believe in God. First, like God's freedoms and your freedoms will impinge upon each other. By believing in God, you have to let some things go. There's some things that are going to be no's in your life now, to open up yeses for other things. Okay, so that's hard. There's no visual of God. Like it'd be great if God was giving this talk, right? If God would just stand, it'd be a lot easier to believe that, right? But you can't see God or the complexities. There's a lot of complexities in the Bible, and there's certain complexities that go against the cultural narrative of the day, and that can be really, really hard. So for some people, it makes sense. They look at it, they look it over, they look at their life, and they're like, I'm good. And they walk out. And there's some reasons to do that, to disbelieve, but I defy you to deny suffering, to disbelieve in pain and evil, and that phone call that changes everything. There's a student at Oxford University who tried to do just this, and it was, I don't know, maybe like 100 years ago. So universities are a lot different now than they were then. They're still great places of learning, but they used to be places of like civil discourse where you could talk about everything, you'd fight about ideas, but in like a really civil, wonderful way. And now maybe that's less so. There's some things you can't talk about and some things you have to package a certain way, and it's just like going through this iteration that's a little bit different. But back then, they had all these speaker circles, and we still have something like that in town. But they had a bunch of them, and in Oxford there was one, and a bunch of people were gathered, and the person speaking that day was about enlightenment. Basically saying that if I enlighten myself by doing certain practices and believing certain things and getting my thoughts in certain orders, I can enlighten myself beyond sort of this circumstantial misnomer of bad and good. Like there's not really like bad and good. They're not really like evil and good. Those are all just social constructs. That's what he was saying. And so someone in the front row asked a question, like raised his hand and said, so you're saying there's no evil? And the speaker was like, precisely. There's no evil. So you say there's no anger at misdeeds. Is that what you're saying? There's no anger at misdeeds. And the person said, what misdeeds? Whatever is. And that's like a modern statement if ever there was one. Whatever is. Like you could put that up on a poster on a wall. Whatever is. Sure, that place. In our postmodern context, whatever is. And so the person who was asking the questions looked down. He had in his hand a cup of tea, and he walked up to the speaker and dumped it on his head. And the speaker then took a swing at him and started chasing him around, cursing at him, showing anger at a misdeed. So either the person didn't actually believe what he was saying or he hadn't taken enough of his own medicine. The point is we can deny and ignore the phone of potential pain, and we can also be broken by the knowledge of pain. That we have these souls in fragmented shards and a splintering anger at all that is and all that we intuit will be. So you have one camp who just tries to wish it away, put on the right glasses so we can't see it, ignore it, say you can pay your way out of it. And you have this other camp who just knows that this is the way that the world is, and they're kind of dogged at the soul level, and they're just tired. It makes them angry. Like I always think about people with unbelief. Again, some people believe, some people don't. But why are some people so angry about it? Well, because they're angry at so much because they see the way life is, and there's nothing to do about it. And what true Christianity does, it offers a third way. What it does is it sees the reality and attempts to do something about it. Like if I'm looking at a worldview and I determine in my life that suffering is real, I'd love a belief system that acknowledges suffering is real and then attempts to do something about it. And that's the absurd part about Christianity, is it leans into the way the world is. It doesn't try and concoct some workaround. It says, hey, this is life. This is how it is. We're going to lean right into it. What does it say life is? It says, well, we are cursed and creation is groaning. And that can be hard to believe on a sunny Sunday, but that sounds like the waking reality of every Monday morning ever for me. My body hurts, and why am I yelling at my 3-year-old? Like, I'm not cursed, but then I do mean things to people I love the most in the world. Or creation groaning. It's like I can go look at beautiful things, but then I also see smog. And I also see erosion, and I also see decay, and I also see death. And it's like, man, you know what? When I really take a step back, those things that it's saying feel pretty real. But then the founder of the faith, who's Jesus, didn't come in and say, okay, here's a special exit from all this pain for those people who are the privileged ones. Go ahead and walk out this way, and you won't have to deal with any of this. No, rather what he did is he plunged right into the tempest himself. He walked right into it. There's this line from Shakespeare that says, once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. And that is a quote from Shakespeare, but that could be quoted from Jesus, the suffering servant himself who came to save. Once more into the breach. Like, what are you doing? You can't go in there. They're going to kill you. Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. Jesus himself took the meaningful phone call. He had that happen. He answered that call. And it's the phone call that truly changes everything. So life is hard. Can we agree? Life is hard. I know that's hard to hear. You didn't show up and it says nothing but blue skies. You saw the trailer, like, ooh, this is going to feel good. And it's like, I feel bad. But life is hard. Life is painful. Death lurks. Clouds swarm. And yet, Y-E-T, yet is this tiny little word. But it's one of the most powerful words on or above earth. Yet. Yet is the wonderful crux of Christianity. Yet hearkens and hopes for things to come. So if you are in faith or you want to be in faith, what happens is you kind of believe in the historical Jesus and the work he did. You believe that there's sin and that he became sin so that you can become righteousness, be made right with God, all of that. As soon as you start to believe that, even in an iota, imperfect as your faith is, Jesus looks at you, looks at your existence, and he declares your position, your standing, as finished. That's what he's saying up on the cross when his work is, he says, it is finished. And he meant his mission, but his mission was to stamp justified on your heart. It is finished. You are accepted and loved, and nothing can separate you from that love. We are destined for a forever blue sky reality where all bad things will come untrue. Every tear will be wiped away. The old is gone. The new will come. And we have a glimpse of that fullness now. But the realization and totality of that fullness, not yet. But it's beautiful. It doesn't say no. It says not yet. It's coming. Hang in there. Stand firm. Not yet. This is like my family on Christmas Eve. We used to celebrate Christmas Eve together, all us kids, and it was great. We'd have music on, and we had good food, and then we'd open gifts. And we'd open everyone's gifts, and there's all this generosity and love, and it was just so great. But we'd save the big gifts for Christmas morning. And there's this beauteous anticipation that would happen Christmas Eve. We'd finish the gifts, we'd eat, we'd watch movies, we'd have this fun, and we'd curl up in the bed, pull the blanket over, and we just have these sweet dreams of what's going to happen tomorrow. Not yet, but soon and very soon, the good gifts are coming. It's like awaiting a really good phone call. We have the phone now, it's in your purse or pocket, but you're waiting for that ring and that glorious yes. Not yet, but soon and very soon. Which means we can endure, which means we can persevere, which means we can fear not. We have this eternal whisper growing ever louder of blue skies, regardless of the storms that rage all about us. 2018, there were hurricanes, and you probably read about these hurricanes. You probably remember them. Pandemic might have wiped them from your memory, but Hurricane Michael was intense. And that's like the understatement of the year. If I was down in Florida and I said that, it'd probably be fighting words like intense. That doesn't do it justice. And there's one place in particular called Mexico Beach that just got obliterated. Like there's this great video, if you ever pull it up, of a helicopter and a cameraman flying around Mexico Beach taking footage, and that would be the easier job than Noah's meteorologist, because all they had to do is point the camera. It didn't matter which direction you went, you weren't going to miss the shot, because destruction is what they're after, and destruction is what they got in every single direction. The entirety of the city was destroyed, everything but one house. One house. One house had this tiniest bit of damage on one window. It had a little sliver of a crack, and that was it. That was the only damage. And so when you read about how did that house stand where everything else faltered, well, one, screws were supposed to be like this long. They got screws that were this long. Every screw in that house was like 3 times what the prescribed coded length was supposed to be. The walls, they made them triple thick. The windows, they quadruple paned them. They did everything. Even the deck was interesting, because what happens in these storms, especially if you're beachfront, the deck gets ripped away, and as it's going, it creates a damage, and it can rip a small hole in the house, but then it's like the weak spot in a dragon. That small hole becomes problematic. And the wind gets in there, and the rain gets in there, and there's different pressure outside than inside, and the whole house can blow up, but it can also just be ripped open, and then the rain's getting in there and ruining all your stuff. And so what they did with this deck is they had stairs leading up to the deck, so the stairs pull the deck pulls away and takes some of the house with it. They had stairs that were tear-away stairs, meaning that as soon as the wind started pulling on the stairs, the least important part, they would just tear away and blow on by. The house stood, and some experts estimated the cost of all these upgrades, and I only mentioned a few, but all these upgrades, some experts think that just the upgrades, not the house, the upgrades were $400,000. Some put it at a lesser number, but either way you look at it, it was costly. It's a picture of yet. Yet stood against the fiercest storm. This place is called the Sand Palace. It should be called the Sand Fortress. It lived on through the storms to see the blue skies. But it was the very thought of blue skies which had the owner purchase the screws in the first place. It was the thought of blue skies that was in that anticipatory waiting period where no storms came and people thought they were crazy for spending all this money. It was the thought of blue skies that lasted through the raging storm. And there's this beautiful picture online of this place where it's a shot of the eaves. I guess the eaves were constructed where wind would glance off of it. But you look beyond the eaves, and it's from the ground up. All you see, blue skies. May that be the picture of our lives, that the phone will ring into our life, but because He lives, we can face tomorrow, whatever tomorrow brings, whatever the phone tells us. We can live joyously in the stormy now and even feel the wondrous sun and blue skies of the great not yet to come. So come back, and we'll keep talking about it. Come back this summer as we explore this. Will there be nothing but blue skies? Probably not. But at the soul and life level, there might be something better, more real, truer. Lord willing. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you. Not for allowing this mess to happen and just leaving us in there alone. And I think even not for just pulling us out of it. Sometimes that's what we long for. But when we think about, for instance, the person we admire most, what we don't say is they had a perfect life. What we point to is the ways they overcome, the ways they overcame trials and hardship and challenges, the way they persevered. And you've given us that opportunity, and you yourself took that opportunity. You modeled it for us. We are not alone in this storm or any storm to come. And where you are, blue skies are. Not hunky-dory blue skies of our own making, but deeper than that, bluer than that, truer than that. God, let us seek that. Let us live that. Let us hold fast to that, even in the toughest times. Let us consider it all joy when we encounter various trials. For you are with us and you will not forsake us. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Let's stand and sing one more. Sometimes I wonder if he's faithful. Does he see me in my trouble? Does he understand? Sometimes I question if he's able. Can he rescue? Can he save me again and again? When I look back, did he move every mountain? Did he part every sea? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Did he defeat the darkness? Did he deliver me? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Sometimes those voices try to tell me I've forgotten and I've fallen too far from his hands. But I know what kind of God he is, and I'm trusting in his promises. I'm believing and singing, yes, he can. Did he move every mountain? Did he part every sea? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Did he defeat the darkness? Did he deliver me? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Yes, he did. So yes, he can. 'Cause I've seen too much that I can't deny. He's come through every single time, from the beginning until the end. He did, he will, he can. Did he move every mountain? Did he part every sea? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Did he defeat the darkness? Did he deliver me? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Did he move every mountain? Did he part every sea? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Did he defeat the darkness? Did he deliver me? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Thank you so much for being with us today. We have a food truck outside for all of you that are in the room. For those of you joining us online, thank you also for being here, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.